Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm repeating my old favorites because
That's fine.
why
You got a
not?
piece of hair, though.
Ooh, today's beverage comes with a nice red hair.
Nice red hair. Actually, I think that sounds
If
like
you
witchcraft.
sprinkle red hairs by your doorway, it keeps evil spirits out.
And I'm drinking some Bucci.
We're back.
We're back. We knew we would bring some of y'all closeted conspiracy theorists out there.
We
out the
did. We
closet.
brought all the boys to the yard.
I think we brought ourselves to the yard, too.
Well, because like conspiracy theorist, like that whole concept and term just needs to be completely rebranded.
Yeah, because I just think it's like
Just truth.
you're aware of the things that are actually going on that are slowly meant to kill us. But no worries. So anyway,
back to beverages of choice.
I have some kombucha today. It is really good for gut health, if you don't know. And if you haven't tried it, it is absolutely an acquired taste. So just an FYI on that.
It's the vinegar. Do you like the vinegar? I like Bucci. We call it Bucci in my house. I've got my Bloom, but this is like a natural energy drink, an all natural energy drink. 0 sugar, prebiotic.
Anything with 0 sugar is
Natural
automatically not natural.
Energy.
Just so you know.
There's fiber.
I mean, I guess if you're going to get an energy drink.
Boost your metabolism. I am like.
If you're going to get an energy drink, I definitely.
You're practically losing weight right now.
The marketing has worked.
You got
Matrixed up.
And they have it at Sam's now, so your girl's winning.
Yeah. Okay.
Pinkies up, bitches. So, hello, my fellow conspiracy theorist.
We knew it wouldn't be long until we brought you out. Just wanted to give you a little dip of toe, you know? But now that we're out. We got some stuff to talk about today.
We do.
First things first, we just want to thank you for all of your time and attention for our last video because
y'all gave it.
Y'all gave it.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people that are really waking up to all of the nonsense that's going on. And in terms of conspiracy theories, there's a whole spectrum. I feel like, the school.
And just as a side note, if you guys haven't seen the Scottish girl who wakes up from the Elf on the Shelf with like her face full of, marker, and she's like, this isn't, no, I got to go to school. That's where I got the last one from. Well, we'll see if our marketing team can link it in the video, but right now,
you got it.
Marketing team?
Yeah. They're hanging out with the production crew and not doing shit. They're kidding. It's us.
Hidden somewhere. Oh, yeah.
We're trying to figure it out.
We are marketing, branding, operation, tax and finance, research and development, client strategy,
personal shoppers.
Yeah. So, needless to say, when we are launching this video, our brand and operations assistant application will be officially closed. So we will soon have some help in that area.
We need a lot of help.
We need another us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're hoping we're going to get.
We're there.
Us.
We've made it to that point of knowing that carrying on by ourselves is not. It's not going to be good for anybody.
No. But we really want to thank you guys for following along and really just coming out the shell and watching our video because we had some really good. Y'all watched the full video. So totally. We appreciate you for listening to our voices for that long. Sometimes we can't even stand it. So thanks for
no, I can't.
Thanks for riding away.
For hanging with us.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I heard from are actually, I feel like there is like a silent majority that is currently trapped inside a corporate cult and doesn't know what to do, but they felt very seen by our conversation. And I think that's very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Personally. I mean, I'm not surprised because I think it's just getting more and more uncomfortable for people. And as people are kind of waking up to figuring out what they want and really trying to make empowered moves to go after it, that's becoming more and more of a threat to some of these systems. And so fear tactics are being used to try to keep people down.
For sure.
Keep people in a box. And that's painful.
Yeah. I mean, I've experienced it. Lauren's experienced it. And I guess I never really looked at it as a cult, but we should should look up the
What's the
definition
definition? All
of
right,
a
this is
cult.
where we're gonna
Okay.
start. The definition of a cult, and then for each one of those attributes, let's correlate it to something that we potentially experienced or
Yeah.
have seen in
Am I
the
just going to like
corporate
Oxford
context.
Dictionary here? Or like, am I going
I
on
mean,
Urban
you
Dictionary?
could go
Like, what am
to
I going
oh,
to?
you're gonna cheat on our boyfriend?
Well, no,
So
this ChatGPT 5 Live or whatever.
ChatGPT upgraded to 5.0 and it's garbaggio.
Iwapunyo.
Even I don't wanna hang out with him anymore. We used to be friends,
Yeah, he's been really good to me.
but now I have real friend. Just a one.
Okay, I'm gonna ask him,
Okay.
dear Chet, what is the definition of a cult?
Yes, and what are some specific attributes? That way he'll give us a little list if he's paying attention.
All right, sent it.
Hopefully.
All right, here's what I got.
Okay.
Great question. The word cult can mean different things depending on whether you're talking in a neutral anthropology. Whoa, wait a minute.
We need the phonetic
What the hell is
anthropological.
what the hell is
Hold
that
on,
word?
I was cleaning my glasses.
Anthropological? Is that how you say it?
Anthropological sense.
That's a system of devotion or worship.
Oh, anthropological.
Or in the modern, more negative sense, a manipulative or harmful group.
We want that one. Well, I mean, they're one and the same if you really think about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Definition.
So the definition of the neutral and academic is a religious or a social group with beliefs, practices, and rituals centered around a particular figure, idea, or object of devotion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the academic
Okay.
version. The modern/social version is a group or a movement often led by a charismatic leader that uses manipulative, controlling, or abusive methods to maintain loyalty and obedience, often to the detriment of the members' autonomy and well-being. Well, ding, 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 that's the one. So
I think we found a winner.
So
folks.
option 2 is absolutely what we're going to be talking about today,
Sure is.
because I think that is really what's going on in a lot of different, not even just corporate, but even like the groups that like, right. So you think about even how some of you may be feeling with like the spirituality stuff, right? It's a very unknown topic. There's a lot behind it. There's a lot of different things. You have religions, you have like there is so much stuff. So at any point, can like there be an easy transition into like that cult mentality? Absolutely, especially when you're looking
Oh,
for
yeah.
community or for something to believe in, right? I
Yep.
know for me, I have nothing tied to a culture or tradition or anything. So some of that was like kind of almost teetering for me to join or to be part of something, to feel part of something. So I would just encourage you to always go within first.
A sense of belonging is a powerful force.
Yeah.
And
For
almost
sure.
as powerful as what loneliness can do to individuals. And if you don't feel a part of something and you're in that vulnerable space of finally signaling, like, okay, I think I'm ready to find my place, I'm ready to find my community, my people, it is a very insidious process, I think. And when I watch these documentaries and you hear from like the people that were in the cults and they're like, when you're in it, like I didn't even realize what happens is like they're putting somebody on a pedestal. When you put somebody on a pedestal, it represents beyond just that person. It gives them these attributes and these powers that before you know it, it's all about pleasing that person. And if you get a real big, even a small group, but you get groups of people surrounding that token, now you've got this collective power of wanting to belong and feeling like you're belonging. And as long as you're like kissing the ring of this person, then you're in.
Yeah.
And if you buck that, then you're back to where you were, which that's where all that fear comes in because loneliness lives there. Feeling isolated can live there. And that's such a powerful human emotion.
And it's hard because a lot of these cults or groups out there that, like they make you believe in something and they make you feel part of something. So it's really hard to get out when you get in. But just like anything that we're going to tell you, use your best judgment, know who you are and know, like always look within first and always look within to make sure that it aligns with what you believe and where you want to go.
So as we correlate some of these attributes to corporate environments and really start to kind of look at it in a way that's objective in nature, truly. Like if you're somebody that needs to take the word cult out of this, then take it out. But what we want to look at is where is your culture of your organization in terms of how much weight is put on a singular person. And that could be the head of the company, that could be somebody that's a top seller, that could be somebody that has an extreme amount of influence and power within the organization to make your day great or really make it awful.
Hmm.
And how I've seen that play out, especially experiencing both types of cultures, because now I kind of have something to compare against where I have seen brand extensions, I would say, where like the brand itself is wrapped around somebody being like the persona of the company, right? And so when that happens, just like in some of these outward cults, right? There's like the guru, there's like the
Mhm.
head of that. And that person kind of becomes the personal brand associated with everything that company does, especially if it was founded by that person, right? So what happens is now anybody that's in operating within that environment that might be struggling with people pleasing as an example is more likely going to bend their values in a way that makes that person see them in a good light. And this taps into what we were talking about on the last episode around being the target. Being the
Yeah.
target can take a lot of different forms. And one of the things that I want you to think about environmentally, like when you're going into a room, let's say you're going into a big meeting, and let's say there's somebody in that meeting that is like put on that pedestal and they're kind of running that meeting. Watch what happens to the people in the room. So
Great
typically
point.
what can happen is like I remember walking into a room being like, "Oh gosh, like one of these things is not like the other." Like I'm not going in there to make any one person happy. I'm going in there to bring value to the room in a way that benefits our stakeholders and also make sure that we're not doing that at a detriment to like ourselves and our ability to connect with our fellow teammates. I mean, I think that's really big. So what would happen is you potentially feel the room totally shut down. Like let's say that person in the room says something that's got that fear base in it, right? Publicly shaming somebody in the room. There's a huge sign that you're in the corporate version of a cult
Yeah.
because what that does is now everybody's inner child is potentially activated in that room of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be the one that's
Don't
shamed.
call on
And
me.
you
Don't.
talked about that with your
That's
example.
exactly what happened, and I just got total body goosebumps
Yeah.
on that too. Because I mean that really what was happening, and I kind of first had to look within and be like, is this a reaction from Gina or is this like a reaction from the environment? And for me, once I figured out it was not a reaction of me internally, like shutting down from
Mm.
social anxiety or anything like that, and I realized it was this person because I
Mhm.
was fine, but then that like person came around, or I
Mhm.
knew, even knowing that I had a meeting, that this person was gonna be there and I already knew what it was, immediate just shut down.
Yep. Yep. And that can be debilitating, not only as a person, but in your ability to feel like you're doing a good job, that you're able to kind of show up and be in your gifts, like we talked about. So, one of the things that I noticed by way of energetic attributes to what it could mean. Like you can identify this person in the room or in the company by some of these things. Number one is when somebody speaks up with a view that might be differing in some way from whatever the company line is or whatever the strongest voice in the room is, the physical reactions, the body language from that person become very like
Yeah,
there's facial
what?
expressions.
How do you believe in that?
I'm disgusted. I'm like, I'm pretending not to listen. I'm on my cell phone. All these things create this environment of like, you are beneath me and what you're saying is nonsense. Now, the reality of the situation is there's probably a big part of that person that identifies with the truth of what you're trying to communicate and in some way is deeply insecure about the fact that if the organization or the culture was to go in that direction, it would actually dethrone them. It would create an environment where the people are rising and the ideas are lifting and there is true growth and autonomy that's happening. And what that does is it erodes that person's sense of self, the persona that they've built up. Chances are this person's whole life is built around this role and they don't know who they are at all aside from being in that box. So
Oof.
if you're trying to go up against a system in some way, what we're really going up against is likely a few key people that are now in positions of power that have built up this overcompensation of ego that creates a brick wall for anybody that even threatens the idea of dismantling their persona and who they believe themselves to be. That is like,
One
ugh.
absolutely, yeah, no, that's like that you hit every nail on the head with the hammer, with whatever tool you wanna use,
Boom.
but it like to a T. And so I think because we have that experience of removing ourselves from the situation, how can we help someone who's like so deep in it or who has that feeling that we used to
Yeah.
have
Yep.
to get out of it and to remove themselves?
Yep, because that what we're talking about is that phase that we mentioned in our brand doula episode, which if you haven't watched that yet, go do it. Because this phase before leaving an organization, if you're somebody that's sitting in a position where you're like, okay, I've been thinking about wanting to be an entrepreneur for years, even before things got bad. But then, things got good for a while
Mhm.
and I felt comfortable. And, before you know
Had
it,
them golden
yeah,
handcuffs,
them
John.
3 years have gone by and I get it. There's a risk that reward conversation is always part of it. But it's also about starting to really think about where is that fear keeping you stuck in a way that you're not even allowing yourself, like you can't even get yourself to that frequency of creativity to even begin to build out this thing over here. So now what it becomes is what are the tools and the strategies that you can pull forth into the environment in a way that not only preserves yourself and your emotional state and your mental health and things that you might not even realize are creeping in as a problem until one day you wake up and you're like, I don't feel like myself. I don't know who I am in this. I'm feeling sick when I'm about to walk in this building or go into this meeting because your body is absolutely tuning in to every bit of fear that you
Mhm.
might not be giving conscious awareness to. So then the question becomes, what do I do with that? There's a couple pathways. You could say to yourself, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm just going to leave and kind of just let it be. And there's no guarantee that this same pattern, this same culture, the same environment isn't going to be waiting for you on the next move you make. I certainly know plenty of great organizations. I worked for several where I loved the culture. I felt like I could really contribute in a way and wanted it to just stay in freeze mode forever. Like, if this is just what it is all the time, that's great. And then, kind of the higher I went, I started to see where I was shielded from some of that political landscape. So, something to think about if you're in like that middle management phase and tier is also about what you're holding, right? So, what you are seeing and what you are holding to shield from your team. And how can you survive that in a way that allows you to maintain your integrity as a leader, to not want to recreate more of the same for your team, but to also figure out how to manage your own fear and figure out where you need to take action or speak up and speak truth to power. Speaking truth to power is something that can be deep rooted in a lot of different relationships in your life. And you could have had a bad relationship with a certain person for years, and there's something about this person in this environment that reminds you of
Mhm.
that person. And that's where trauma comes into play. That's where all these other things can really impact our ability to feel like we know how to make moves in that direction.
Yeah, and I think coming from the side that I was on, which wasn't any sort of like I was just a rep, right? So I was like the lowest on the totem pole. So I didn't manage anybody. I was the people who like I was being managed. And those leaders that I was looking up to, a lot of them were they were drinking the Kool-Aid
Yeah.
of everything that the organization was doing because oh, we have, greatest workplace, we have this, we have that. Meanwhile, on the outside, everybody thinks the culture is great and this is a successful organization, but it's really doing so by scare tactics and fear culture.
Mhm.
And for me, until I really sat there and I had to do a lot of internal work. So I'm grateful for that experience. But really, like, that was part of the uncovering of
Yeah.
who is Gina and like, what do I stand for?
Yep.
Because, like I said in that last episode, again, if you haven't watched it, definitely it's a great episode. But I literally let somebody get humiliated right in front of me for 3 months every Wednesday, and I didn't do anything about it. And for that, like any other situation, if I was on the street, if I was, walking, if I was in school, whatever the case, I would have totally stepped in because that is who I am. I'm a protector at nature or at large,
Mhm.
and it's in my nature to protect people and to just be like kind. But that situation that I was in was such a fear-based place for me, and they made you feel like if you thought outside the box, you were so small that you could lose your job, that like all these
Yep.
things, right? And as someone who works, for a living, like you have to make money, and I wasn't an entrepreneur at that point.
Mhm.
So I really had to do a lot of deep diving within myself and just notice that this is not okay. And just understanding that I needed to leave.
Yep.
And I didn't have a backup plan at that time. I didn't really know what was next, but I trusted myself and my ability to know that this was not a good place for me to leave.
Yep. So, in continuing the theme of what if you do if you're in it, and you really have no plans of leaving anytime
Mhm.
soon, just for variety of circumstances. There were a couple things that I learned through energy work and just that self discovery that you talked about, Gina, around where do I need to tune into myself and really kind of zoom out. When we're in the frequency of fear, it completely constricts our life force energy and it's going to attract potentially more situations, more people, more things that represent that frequency of fear. So now let's say you're heading into a meeting and you're all crunched up and you're like, "Oh god,
Punch.
this is going to happen, right? Every Wednesday." And you're now like you're already in this space of knowing it's coming and trying to figure out what to do with that. So the first thing that was very helpful for me in the zoom out conversation, here's what I mean by zoom out. I want you to think about the full environment that you're working within and all the places that blip up for you when you think about when you think about it that create a fear response in you. It could be a person, it could be a meeting, it could be anything. Whatever comes up first. I want you to now see all of those in front of you almost like a timeline as like bubbles outside of you and put each one of those circumstances or people in a bubble and see yourself remove from those bubbles so that you can see them all at once. And now, what that does, I'm total goosebumps on this. So, now what that does is it allows you to see yourself as separate from all of those things because often what happens is we are right in that bubble with them. And there is this constant energy transfer going on. When you're in that zoomed out state, this is where there's more space for asking the questions. What are these circumstances trying to teach me? What are the things about what I'm going through that I can maybe extract a little bit of nectar, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of opportunity to learn more about myself and what I need? You can journal on those themes. You can just let them kind of remain as questions when you open it and you just leave it as a question. Sometimes those things kind of stumble to us like, oh, I didn't realize that was a pattern that I had with this person. You can ask yourself, is this old or is this new?
Mhm.
Is this feeling, is the circumstance old or new? Typically, what I hear from a lot of people is, well, this theme has shown up for me in every single place I've worked for. And that usually means it's tied to something karmically that we are here to work through in this lifetime.
And that's how I knew my experience was not tied to that because I was like, I'm going through this. It is not a me thing. It is an external factor.
Mhm.
So as you are, and was really like during my spiritual awakening and
Yeah.
kind of when I was coming into just all the noticing. And it had happened similar to when I was a police officer, but it wasn't the same feeling. Like that was just I needed to leave that environment. I was meant to do something more. So in finding my way and doing all these other career paths and stuff, this is something that I noticed that was just something that no.
It's a one off.
It
It's
was
a hard
it was
pass.
a value trip,
Yep.
and for me, it severed, and I was like, "No, this is just not right. I'm
Yep.
not supposed to be here, but I'm not supposed to be here because I'm not supposed to be here doing something better.
Yes.
It's because this is not aligning with it's
Yep.
constricting my energy." And you mentioned something really important about life force energy. So if you can dive into that because I just want people to really understand what life force energy really is and how it's utilized, like
Mhm.
how we know we even have life force energy.
Yep, 100%. So just on that theme of the pattern versus the one-off, for me, how that showed up is I recognized I was saying yes in a lot of ways that I really meant no.
Mm.
And when I was doing that, I was able to trace that back to like the past decade of my life. It had gotten better over time, depending on the relationship and what the risk was. But I had to find ways to communicate that maybe it wasn't a yes and maybe it's not a no, but I needed to find strategically the pathway that allowed me to still find my voice without necessarily feeling like I was putting up some kind of hard brick wall. And so, life force energy, when we think about, I forget which episode it was where we talked about the states of water, the constricted state of ice, all the way to vapor. And life force energy, I always think about, and you can probably think of people right now where you can tell that their light is on. They are maybe the definition of higher frequency, just meaning like you can see clearly into their eyes. They are bringing something, a presence with them that feels very genuine for who they are. That doesn't mean that they're not tired one day. It doesn't mean like any of that. It just means
Like
that there
us.
is that there is something to all of us that is really connected to our energetic body, right? And so we have our physical body, but even our physical body is made up of a lot of different cells and structures that aren't even touching. Everything is vibrating, right? So when they study the electromagnetic fields around us as individuals, and I love the studies that they do on
Get out of
horses
my
with
field.
how much the horse frequency, like horses
Yes,
can
yes.
connect with their heart emanates and reverberates energetically for like 10 feet or something. I don't know. I'm
Yeah, and
totally throwing that out there.
they can mimic the heart rate of whoever they're
Yeah.
working with.
Yeah. So there's an interconnectedness to all of us
Yeah.
that I always feel
So I
is
don't
so nature always mirrors itself, right? There's like layers of this. So when I think about what's going on inside of the body, I almost see like planet Earth as like an organ. And all of the people on the planet are like cells within that body. And if you think about the whole solar system that way, this is the stuff I geek out on. I have heard that the Earth is like the liver. This is the place where we
Ooh.
come and incarnate to filter out. So we're filtering out everything from our environment, from our relationships, within our own bodies all the time. It's like the school of hard knocks down here.
Unless the earth is flat, but we don't know.
Bum, bum, bum. This is the flat liver team.
Flat liver.
Hashtag flat earthers. No, we haven't decided. We know we are not flat earthers.
I thought you said flat liver.
Yeah.
Flat liver? You said
We're the
that?
flat liver team.
Yeah, flat livers all the way.
Because Earth is now liver. So back to this like larger comparison, right? When we zoom in, let's say there are areas of if you see your organization as an organ, and each of the employees is like a cell, and each cell is either emitting a negative, we have negative and positive ions all the time, obviously. But when you think about the definition of poisoning the well, for example, let's say you have one area of the business that is a group of cells, and there are some that are very dysfunctional. They are not operating from a place of higher frequency and from full life force that is connected back to understanding how the way that we move impacts everything around us. So what happens is that spreads. And then it can become like one area of the organization is experiencing a ton of dysfunction because it's highly contagious. So if you find yourself in that, you might not even realize that you're kind of part of the contagion, right? So what can happen is maybe you're somebody that went from like very positive about what you're doing to slowly becoming one of those people that when you answer, how's it going? They say, just another day in paradise, like you mentioned. There's a lot.
Living the dream.
There's a lot behind that statement that signals I'm not happy and I know it. And I'm going to now just keep turning myself down and I don't realize it as a form of preservation. So if life force energy is turned down, it has nowhere to go. It is like we are shutting down parts of ourselves that are ready to be activated, that were born to be activated. And this can manifest in anxiety. This can manifest in depression. This can manifest in mental health issues. And when I was really struggling with a lot of those things throughout the past decade, I had to really do some soul searching. Like, where is this environmental? Where is this me being very open? If you're somebody that lives very much in your heart or tries to be open when you're, walking past people and interacting with the world around you, if you're going into an environment where there's a lot of constriction, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of dysfunction, and you're still trying to be open, you are just like taking that in left and right. You might find yourself at the end of the day like, why do I feel so terrible? I don't know what I'm feeling. Is this mine or is it not? So, something that you can do to protect your life force energy, but still remain connected. And this, I used to do this. I'm sure were people that probably saw me doing this in my car before we like shifted to remote work. And I had learned, as I started to get into just awareness of what does it mean to conserve your energy? What does it mean to, have the statement, not everybody has access to my energy. When you're going into environments and your job is to like be having energetic exchanges all day, where can you be choosy with that? How can you be picky about that? Well, one of the things that was helpful is I started to visualize a white translucent bubble around my body. And I just asked that anything that wasn't serving my highest good wasn't allowed in. Only the things that were serving my highest good were allowed in. And it also signaled any energies around me, like, nope, you got to go elsewhere with
Mhm.
that. So I would do that on my way in as a way that said, no, I'm signaling that I want to stay in a higher vibration today. I don't want to be so open that I'm taking on everyone's shit around me. And that also created an opportunity for me. And this is the second tool that you can use is if there's somebody in a meeting that you're going into that is like your arch enemy, that has
Arch nemesis.
nemesis that like frequently targets you or says shit that's crazy, and you don't want the gun to be pointed at you and you're trying to figure it out, just visualize a white X in front of them. I used to do 3 white X's. And the white of that says,
Three white axes.
I still like signal the highest good for you. I am not saying that I hate you, that I want to meet you in that fear of constriction. I'm giving it to a higher power, but I'm also saying not today,
Mhm.
like not happening. And I have a really good story to share on that in a bit.
Yeah.
How that showed up for me once.
And just so you guys know, you have full autonomy with your energy and what you allow in and out. So if there is something that you want to shield yourself from or protect yourself from, you tell it that it needs to kick rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Kick rocks, churn butter,
All of it.
all of it.
Sure.
I don't know. This is my own study.
Township.
Townships for another conversation. Too.
But kick rocks with open-toed shoes.
But that's why we say not everybody gets access to your energy if you don't let them.
Yes.
So we literally are the gatekeepers to our own energy and our own life force. So, and then even to kind of go back, if you're not an energy person, you not yet, but you will be.
You are
watching us.
You're watching.
But if you're not an energy person, you even just think of like how people get sick, right? Or if you don't move it, you lose it. It's the same thing with your energy. If your energy is not able to flow, that's what causes disease, right? If you think about the 2-part word, dis-ease, it's a feeling in the body or a culmination of things that didn't move, things that are stuck, energy that is stuck, which causes those cancers, the diseases, the illnesses, the ailments, whatever it is. So it's just like when we don't move it, we lose it. The same thing goes with that creative energy. The same thing goes with our boundaries. If we don't use boundaries, which are those X's that we're putting up in a energetic level to be like, no, then everybody has access to your energy and it's going to be able to pass right through.
So when we think about your potential to influence the room, I want you to be thinking about yourself as energy and as an energy influencer. Are you so stuck and not right? I like that. If you're so stuck in the bubble with the issue and you're not able to zoom out, then we can't shift from chess to, or from checkers to chess. There's no strategy involved in how we're moving in the environment because we're just kind of a pawn in the game. So whether you're in a frontline role or a high level role, we all have the same opportunity to influence energy. And so when we think about the strategy of that, here's how this can play out in that same meeting example. You might be going into it knowing that you've got your cult leader in there, that you've got something that happens the same day every week, and you're feeling like conflicted on, I'm hurting that I can't help this person. I don't know where to move from in this. When we zoom out, now we think about what's at play in this room, and you start to tune in. Like, this is kind of like where I would have fun in meetings, because instead of like
fun in meetings, how dare you?
I created my own. You can create your own fun in meetings, and nobody's even going to know what's happening, because you can shift out of
go to a corporate just to have fun in that.
Oh yeah,
we would have.
If
so
you
much
want
fun.
us to do like a real live on the spot, like energetic read on a team, we can do that, because This is really about creating cohesion in the room, but you can't do that without disruption first. That's just a fact. So it becomes like, where are we interrupting the signal? So, what I used to think about is how can I be more strategic in this landscape in a way that still aligns with my values and still allows me to kind of tap into what I actually need to glean from this to bring back to my team to add value to what we're trying to advance by way of the mission. So for me, that became really starting to almost dissect each person when they would speak in a way that would help me understand where the fear might be. Like, what is the underlying thing that's at play that is creating the perspective on this? And if, like, we want to be able to look at all perspectives. So typically, what would happen is there were like one or two things that I could connect with. They might have been small, but it created an opening for me. And if you're really close to it, you can't see the opening.
Mhm.
So when you listen for it, and even if it's coming out of the mouth of somebody that like you've identified as your arch nemesis, you gotta
Love
almost
that.
put that over here for a second and say, okay, there was something in there that I connect with. This isn't about proclaiming that this person is right or wrong. I think we get very vested and involved personally in some of these things for good reason.
Especially when you don't like somebody. Like, it's no matter
Yeah.
what comes out of their mouth, they're just like, eh.
Yes. But piece it together, right? Because typically there's that little piece and there's this other little piece. And now you're forming something that you agree with. And that becomes your starting point versus starting with the thing that's like the opposite that maybe you could never get them to see. Start with the common denominator, use that, and then add on to it. Because now what you're doing is you're signaling, okay, I connect with some of this. I see what you're saying without having to say that. You kind of just bring it forth as a way that is a launch pad for the next idea that you want to piggyback with it. And what that does to that other person is they feel like, okay, yeah, I feel heard. Somebody heard my idea.
Mhm.
It isn't them going against me in some way. And this can become a way to move the room without realizing, like the room doesn't realize they're being moved. And next thing you know, by the end of it, you're like, okay, I can kind of live with this direction. I think this is something that I can pull enough from in order to do my job in a way that feels like we're advancing things in a good direction.
Yeah, because I mean, especially if we are living in the liver, right?
Mhm.
You have a lot of people who are going through a lot of things,
Lot of things.
and they're here for whatever their karmic
Yep.
stuff is. Everybody is on their own journey
Mhm.
at the end of the day. So you never know what somebody's going through.
Yep.
Someone could have, they could be a caregiver who's been up all night dealing with a sick other half or grandparent or parent, whatever the case. They could, have just lost somebody. They could be getting stress from their leaders. You never know.
There's a
And
lot.
there's so many different, I mean, there's tons of different situations and
Yep.
scenarios, but the biggest thing is to protect yourself, be able to look within, and then removing yourself from that direct situation and those emotions, because a lot of that can be environmental as
Mhm.
well.
And so when I'm gonna give you 2 examples, 2 signs you're in a cult. The things that I
Oh yeah, did you
experienced.
want to?
Yeah. I have 2 right off rip that
Oh,
come to
okay. All
mind
right.
for me. Number 1, we touched on a little bit. If you're in an organization where there's public shaming going on, I had this happen to me once where I was in a meeting with a higher up, it was a chief at the time, and we had vendors in, and these were partners that we were working very closely with, and I was sharing an idea, and this person cut me off and said, "I'm gonna coach you on the spot here because this isn't the direction we wanna go." It was very ick. It was very I was immediately like, and I was close with the agency partners. We worked very well together. And I could feel them be like, what is this bitch talking about?
Oh,
And so I had to, this is where like Hood Lauren or Healed Lauren,
yeah, yeah.
like
We get
I
that
was
a
ready
lot.
to square up a little bit. And I said, come back to your breath in that moment. Because when that activation happens, you're not in a good
On
part of your brain.
site.
Yep. So, and this person had a reputation for being nasty, for being very like totally destructive by way of culture. And I was like I would say a couple years into my career. And I said, you know what? That can't fly. That was one where I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do this right here. I'm not going to come to your level. You're going to know you hit a wall. And okay, we're going to bypass that. And then I'm going to need to meet with you tomorrow. So I did. I called a meeting with her directly and went right to her office. And yeah, I'm scared shitless. I was like, God, I got to face this one. But I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? No, like this is a boundary. And I looked at her and I said, I need you to understand that that behavior that happened in the meeting yesterday can never happen again. Never. If there is something that you disagree with me or don't feel like I'm approaching it the right way, let's have that conversation in a way that's actually productive and isn't publicly shaming somebody.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that I'm
Agreed.
not the first person you've done that to. And that leadership style is dead. It never worked and it never will. And the interesting thing about this, and I have found this time and time again, is that often some of these people in positions of power don't actually realize how destructive they're being because everyone's too afraid to call them out in a respectful way. So instead of like now challenging her authority back to
Yeah.
her, I went to her like woman to woman and said, okay, you want to try that somewhere else? Not cool, but you're definitely not trying it here. And she genuinely apologized and said she didn't realize how abrupt it came across and it never happened again. And I actually think that that helped grow some respect in the other direction of like, okay, like Lauren knows who she is.
Yeah.
There was like that little bit of it. And so that was a big deal. And to piggyback on what you said, and like, no matter what position of power somebody's in, they're still human. There are
Mhm.
still massive amounts of situations probably going on in their life, and everybody does something different with that. And I had somebody that I particularly had a hard time working with and needed to work with regularly and was constantly trying to figure out how to move within this space to the point where, you know, if you've boxed somebody in as your enemy and feeling like, what's the point? It's never going to work. You do miss an opportunity to figure out or hold space for the opportunity to connect with them in a different way. And I remember same approach. I went one to one, wherever you can go one to one to call somebody on their behavior respectfully, like process your emotion first, get to your key point, then go have the conversation. Typically it presents an opportunity for more connection. So
Mhm.
this person I had heard from was actually going to an appointment that day that they had significant childhood trauma with this type of doctor when they were younger. And all of this started to come out, that all of this fear was at play for this person that day. And it was no excuse for the behavior that was being shown. But I literally saw this person like morph into like a 10-year-old right in front of me. And these are like really big positions of power. So just remember that everybody is human. And that doesn't mean they get to shit in your mouth. I mean, two girls, one mic. But it is an opportunity to figure out what you need. You know, how do we come back from that one? So that's the market. Like we are not. No, I always say, like, no, you are
Saucer?
not shitting in my mouth today and expecting me to eat it, y'all. So that's thing one is remember that you get to choose when and where you want to uphold your boundary. If you don't uphold your boundary, nobody else is going to.
No.
That's for damn sure.
Nope.
So the public shaming is definitely involved in cult environments.
Yes.
The second one, if you are in meetings or in one-on-ones where somebody starts to position somebody on your team as not on the bus, if you hear those phrases,
Not on the
they're not on the bus. They're not. And I'm like,
You're not with us.
I remember saying to somebody, I said, well, the bus doesn't have any tires on it right now and there's no steering wheel. So I don't want anybody on the bus right now. It's not ready to be driven. And
Good for you.
then what happens is, okay, well, we need to get, and I am really triggered by the book, The Energy Bus.
I've
and
never read that.
I
don't think I've
am,
ever read a full book in my life. But,
yeah. Hey, you take what you need and
I
you
do-
leave the rest.
and that's
then
usually
you
like
move between,
chapter
like,
1
10
and
books.
done.
Now, there are plenty of people that read this book and try to use it as, and I couldn't get too far into it. I was ick even by the correlated topic of people aren't on the bus. Let's cue the mandatory reading about the energy bus. And essentially, right,
What?
exactly. Essentially what this means
I would have
is
bailed out.
like, you're not on board. You're not on board. You're not drinking the Kool-Aid. And I did try to talk Gina into drinking Kool-Aid,
That's never gonna
but it
happen.
was a hard pass.
That's like,
So
yeah, that is
we are not drinking the Kool-Aid, y'all. But that is the drinking the Kool-Aid and the on the bus are one and the same. They are one and the same. So if that starts to show up, this is where, as if you're particularly if you're in a leadership role and somebody starts to kind of indirectly target somebody on your team as they already know they want this person out. So they're going to keep turning up the heat on you as a leader to freaking handle it, to figure out how to get them gone. Now, it might end up that that person isn't the right fit for the role and they're struggling. And By fit, I just mean it's not aligned. What they're doing doesn't bring them joy. So they're not able to get to this place, or they're deeply struggling as a person and with aspects of the culture and with coworkers that they don't feel safe to show up. As a leader, we have to be able to figure out what's at play. So if somebody is using the phrase, you're not on the bus, and they start throwing the energy bus in your face, we want to start asking questions about the bus. That's the key. What bus are we getting on? Are we all getting on the same bus? Is the bus functional? Where is the bus going? Right?
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Is that bus going off a cliff? Like, I don't want to be on the bus if I don't know enough about the bus. So that's where your opportunity comes in to question in ways that help create a common definition. Are we all talking about the same thing here? What is the definition of good? How would we know if somebody was on the bus? What does that look like? Is it a personality trait? Is it something that they're doing production wise? There's a lot of gray area in that statement. That's your opportunity to kind of infuse questioning into the system.
Yeah. I question everything, and I think you should too, because asking questions is probably the most empowering thing that you can do for yourself, because knowing and knowledge is power.
Yep.
And you get to choose, again, with your energy, with your life force, with who you are, your boundaries, all that things. You get to allow and disallow what you want and what you don't want in your field.
Yep. Absolutely.
So moving forward to what Chet said about our lovely attributes of a cult.
I'm still not talking to Chet, but it's fine. We can do a proxy read.
So as you mentioned, authoritarian leadership.
Yep.
That is someone who is like a one leader or small group. What the fuck is a clue? Claims special knowledge, authority, or divine connection, expected to show unquestioning obedience. So that is where it is. Okay. You can always have a leader. You can always have someone who is, they know more, authority. Right? They might know more than you. And that is okay.
Yeah.
But they're not better than you in any means.
Correct. They might be able to move a mission forward. You want that energy of like, oh yeah, I would follow that. But not blindly, right? So that's the piece that we're talking about here, is where the second part comes into play.
The biggest piece of all of this is that unquestioning obedience. It's not obedience. You're not supposed to be obedient. Like, you're not an animal here. You're supposed to have your own mind, own thoughts, own opinions. And that is how we collectively make everything better, because I'm creative in this way. I have this innovative idea. Lauren has this. So we're supposed to build on our strengths and our gifts and our purposes here. So,
and a lot of people get stuck around, because obedience can equal silence. And a lot of people get stuck in not knowing how to communicate, not knowing how to bring that in a way that asserts empowered confidence in a conversation and allows you to process through. And if that's something that you struggle with, we offer coaching on that, because there's a lot of specifics we can get into around the circumstance that's going on, what's coming up for you around it, and what are some strategies that we can explore that you can go kind of play around with. Because if you're applying it in one area, it serves you across all areas of life. So I just wanted to note that as well.
No, thank you for that.
Yep.
The second one is elitism. Okay. And this basically means that this group presents itself as the only path to truth, salvation, or enlightenment. And again, very, very, very toxic environments, as there's only one way. Or even if you are in a space where, even in the spiritual sense, that this is the only way. We know we may have our beliefs, but that doesn't mean that I can't have a conversation and maybe be intrigued, or it pins something for me to be like, maybe I should look more into this. Because if you guys don't think for 1 second that our entire lives we have been told things to keep us in that constricted mindset, and that we are in a box, this might not be the right podcast for you. But and in that too, the outsiders are also seen as dangerous or evil or lost or things like that. Right?
If curiosity is not rewarded, or there isn't space held for curiosity, that's a huge red flag.
Get out. X
huge
out.
Red flag.
But that's why we say, like, to question everything, and that there is just more room than one opinion in every space. Doesn't mean if, like, literally I went my entire life with thinking we had a solar system and that the world is round, and yes, I still think that, but if I have a conversation with somebody who
You're
can
a flat earther, aren't you?
I'm not. I'm just kidding. I'm not yet.
I'm just kidding.
I'm certainly not yet. But there are points that I can't unsee. I will let you know that. I'm not fully. So if anybody has like full
Not a thoroughbred flat earther.
but that's the thing. You never, you like there is never. I'm never going to get to a point where I'm
Right.
just like, this is the way it is.
We only ever-
yeah. There's always room for that actually sounds like it makes sense. So
I had this moment when I was driving the other day, and I was like in my head about something, and this is a good reminder too. Whether you think the Earth is round or flat, the reality as I know it, which I haven't been out of this planet, is that we are on a rock, like floating in a galaxy that's a part of another
Going millions of
galaxy.
miles
That's a part of
away.
another galaxy. We are like a smaller than a speck of sand in our head about an exchange you had at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. What? Zoom out.
Like,
and if you gotta go
have
into
fun with this. Have fun with this in your avatar bodies.
And you know what is a really cool thing if you haven't been to? I'm not sure if there's anywhere locally around here, but they have at some of those museums or like, I don't know, solar system places.
Planetariums?
Yeah. Planetarium. And they have these screens where you can kind of be immersed and you can see the solar system on a bigger view. So you can really put that in perspective of like, man, I am literally this little speck that is here for a blip in whatever time. Like, time is not real. This is not real. At least that's what I believe.
It's definitely a construct.
Yeah.
And like I saw a YouTube video, I think, where it had like the size of us compared to the size of the planet, and our planet all the way compared to like the size of Jupiter, and how that compares to the set. And it's like constant zoom out.
Yeah.
Just remember to hold that perspective when we talk about zooming out, because like really it's a miracle that we're even here. I don't even know what this is. When I start to think about it too much, I get a little crazy. So I'm like, no, my brain broke. We're good. Back to Trader Joe's.
You can't, back to my seltzer.
But
if you can't put yourself in that, like where Lauren was talking about the bubbles of kind of removing yourself, like think of yourself looking at the solar system and just pretending all of those things. Cause like that would be a better visual for me.
Yes.
Even though you explained it very great, but that is something like I know because I've seen it before. So if you have trouble sometimes with the visualization elements, which I really do a lot, I have to tailor it to something that I know. That's why I use nature a lot, because I can take something from nature and I can relate it to something that I'm going through internally.
That's right. And I would also love to hear from you on your favorite conspiracy theory. Maybe one that you're like, oh yeah, this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a no-brainer. This is just truth. And then one where you're like, I'm curious, but that's a little far, a little bit of a reach for me.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different ones kicking around that are just gaining momentum. And I do think that this can really contribute to an age of misinformation. There's just a lot of stuff. So just stay curious and discerning and ask questions. Like, be mindful of where you're locking in on a viewpoint. For sure.
For sure.
All right, what else as we round this amazing cult episode out?
So basically, I'm just going to kind of go in really, really quickly. It's going to be like anything exploitation, might be pressure into giving money, property, any sort of personal freedoms, manipulative techniques.
Like you have a day off, but you don't have a day off.
You have unlimited sick time, but you don't have unlimited sick time because now you're going to fuck somebody else.
Pop a flag.
They gotta
pop a flag. That's your time.
Totalistic belief system, which is like the us versus them kind of thing, or promises of an ultimate reward. That finishes it up though. That's about it. But the total point of this is look inward, understand yourself, your values, and just objectively look at the situation and pull in those pieces that you think are lessons, pull in those pieces that are values, and use that to determine what your next step is going to be.
Absolutely. And final thought, pay attention to the fear that's coming up right before you know you're about to take an action that you need to take, like having the conversation, because typically what happens is we build up the biggest fear wall and we spell out the worst case scenarios of everything. And I will tell you that on the other side of any time I really like reached my neck out was only a positive. It really, now again, that doesn't mean I wasn't just uncomfortable. I wasn't met with some kind of like aggression or retaliation, but I saw that as a mark of disruption and change. Mm-hmm. Not a bad thing. We don't want to get careful of the label. So yeah, that's it.
Like raw dog and a cool.
Raw dog and a what? A cool.
A cool.
Just raw dog the cool. Just pick up the phone. Don't even think about it.
Call the doctor's office. Make the appointment. We promise.
Yep. And don't get lost in your message. You know? If you're
flinging anger at
somebody. Listen, I've worked through that in childhood. Sometimes it comes out.
Got a freaking sprinkler system over here.
On that note, sprinkler system. Bye, y'all.